Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
you're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
all right, hey everybody, welcome to Rob Nelson Live. Happy Wednesday. Well, Landy was going to join me today, but no Landy. No Landy. Where is Landy? Oh, he is there. Maybe Landy is here, huh? Maybe Landy showed up. I thought Landy was going to flake on me, but it looks like he's backstage. Oh, who knew? All right, I'm impressed, Landy, that you're there. I'm impressed you're here. Well, I'm not going to waste a lot of time with setups then, because I like to have my guest right in on the setup with me. It makes it more fun. So let me add Landy in right now and just get the action rolling. Hey, Landy, you there?
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah,
now
I'm just sending out a post saying that I'm over here.
Okay, awesome. Well, Landy, we got a lot to talk about today. And I don't want it all to be about Iran, but I am going to start with that. But I want to talk a little about some stuff going on in domestic politics too with you.
Sure.
If you're good with that. But I want to start with Iran. And Landy, you know, and for the audience's sake, you and I have gone back and forth on this, and we have a lot of fun with it, you know, and David, you know, gets, you know, in the middle there with it. I want to put out lay out what's really going on for me here, because I'm definitely right now having I'm having some troubled conviction here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and I know you're very clinical and matter of fact, and I know you see a strategic plan in all of this. And I'm going to acknowledge up front that you're probably right about most of your assessment of what the military and the defense planners are thinking through on this. Okay. I'm still going to lead with my premise that I do not think President Trump expected this to go the way it did. I don't think they were caught off guard that it wasn't a possibility. I think he expected it. I think he expected a different outcome faster. I could be wrong, but I think he thought this would be over a little sooner. Now, I'm sure they had contingency for this scenario, but here's what's really troubling me, Landy. I feel like Iran is, and I think they're wrong here, but I think they're playing a game where they clearly want to divide the U.S. and Israel. So tying what Israel does in Lebanon into the ceasefire talks, you know, they think they can put a wedge in between. I think they might be able to put, you know, and you see Trump reacting, going, you know, I'm telling Bibi Netanyahu to stop. Well, first of all, I don't see any scenario where Bibi Netanyahu stops when Iran launches like 12 ballistic missiles at Israel. Don't really think there's going to be a stop there and not a retaliation. Nor do I think Netanyahu can afford to look like he's doing what Trump said for his own internal politics. You know, if it's against what he thinks is Israel's best interest. But that said, Landy, I'm really concerned that where this is, that Trump seems to really want a negotiated outcome. And I don't think that is a workable solution. You know, he keeps saying we're close to a deal. Iran's going to give up nukes, which already they said they'd do, you know, 15 years ago. I don't see a deal. I don't think Iran really wants a deal. I think they want to, I don't think they have any interest in stopping. And this ceasefire is a joke. Like, it's a ceasefire where Iran just keeps firing at everybody. Fire at Kuwait, fire at the United Arab Emirates, fire at Bahrain, fire at Israel, like fire at our ships. Like, oddest ceasefire I've ever seen. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, we're hitting them very hard right back. This comes down to the fracturing that's occurring within Iran. You have different factions that already had different goals. The way that, you know, Iran's, you know, power structure was essentially decentralized and autonomous, whether you're looking at the political infrastructure or the military infrastructure, gives a lot of room for problems internally, which we know they've been having. It's quite stressful within Iran, and this is even prior to any conflict kicking off, right? With the economic collapse that occurred just prior, a little bit of an engineered economic chaos, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, and when I look at this situation, I look at it from a tactician standpoint. They have nothing really at the end of the day. They have threats of strikes against ships in the strait. The strait does not matter anymore. And Trump has been very clear about this. Who does it matter to? It matters to Europe and Asia. And a lot of people make a big deal about the 20% of supply and all this and that. Look, most of that supply has already been rerouted, right? So when looking at the developing shipping lanes, what is Iran now indicated? They know, and this is how you know that they've lost in this game, is they're now threatening to strike into the Red Sea.
Mhm.
They're threatening other straits
Right.
because they now recognize that the Strait of Hormuz no longer matters, and it hasn't really mattered, and this is something that I've been talking about since the very beginning, is that objective, was met by the US military, was to essentially rework the global supply chain for energy and agriculture and everything else. And we've already seen that. Now, granted,
Yeah.
there's ships that are trapped. There's a big deal made about like, oh, one of those ships escaped sanctions and like they caught him in the Indo-Pacific, right? So, look, my point about this is there is the reason why people are upset is people want, rightfully so, the Islamic Republic dissolved and gotten rid of
Mhm.
and removed so that the problem can never come back,
Right.
because that is the fear, that even if for the next 10 years everything's all copacetic, that they just rear their heads again and there's big problems again.
Not a fear, it's what's gonna happen.
Well, here's the other side of this though. This is much bigger than just Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, right? A lot of this, a lot of the groundwork for this was laid when Trump reaffirmed the Abraham Accords and
Yep.
has been essentially indicating, and you could tell this because of the way that even the geopolitical situation in the Gulf has evolved, with Saudi Arabia being very heavily involved now,
Right.
and kind of shot calling at this point, saying, no, 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 we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And that was a stated goal of the Trump administration. And part of this has to do is, um, the Britain has been very heavily influential in creating this entire problem. And, I've mentioned this to you, is a lot of what they were doing was helping to enable this,
Yeah.
whether, from the radicalism in the first place that they helped
Yes.
create,
But
all the
Landy,
way through
let
to
me ask
protecting the Islamic regime. But I need you to stay with me for this for 1 minute, because a lot of people believe, and I think that this is the smokescreen, is that they, being the IRGC, are so radical that they will literally do anything. But the fact of the matter is we know that they're not as radical as they say they are, because most of them were living in Europe somewhere, not even living in Iran, going to school and sending their children into other countries, whether it be Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Gulf states, or the UK, to actually live, have fun, and not even live by the standards that the Islamic regime sets for women, for men, for any of these things. And I think
Mhm.
that that is something that I'm not convinced that they are as hard line as they say they are. And I think that that is a part of a facade that they have built over the past 47 years, and that is being tested, and we'll see where that goes. And I think that we're playing that strategy out perfectly. You're muted though. I couldn't hear you if you were talking.
Sorry, Landy, keep going. I wanna hear the rest of your thought.
So my big point on this is, I think that what I would like to see and what you would like to see are the same things. I would like to see a revolution in Iran where the Iranian people get their damn freedom back. Although when this conflict started out, I never thought that that was going to occur. I know that was never my first take on this from the very beginning. And I think that that is expectations that we as the public foisted upon the administration, and that they did a little bit of I guess they also facilitated a bit of that by saying rise up against your, and I think that that was part of the problem is many
Right.
took this as we are going to do regime change. But I don't think that was never the strategic goal, and you could tell from the very beginning that that wasn't going to be the strategic goal. So
Right.
I don't know. As it pertains to Israel, Israel, Israel Palestine, whether it pertains to Israel and what's going on with Hezbollah, all of the different leverage that they're trying to do with all these negotiations. I think the U.S. wants to stay out of it, but doesn't want Israel to screw up any of the goals being met that the United States has. So this is a conflict in terms of a disagreement between the United States and Israel, because the United States has very strict stated goals, and that is get the nuclear material, get that out, and then get our companies in there to rebuild infrastructure and then maintain a presence there. But I don't know how long that's going to take. Um, I don't disagree, by the way. If you can still hear me over there, I don't disagree that it's probably taking longer than they wanted, but I don't think that they were unprepared for this to take a very long time. Um, in fact, I think that they prepared for this to be a years long endeavor. I think that more of the messaging about it is to keep it like it was short and sweet and calm it down to the point where it's not in the news cycle all the time, so that it's not at the top of the American people's minds while they continue to work. But we shall see. Hi, I'm the puppet. I've officially taken over Rob Nelson Live, powered by GNN, on this here fine uh Monday evening. I actually forgot what day it was, but when it comes to what's occurring, I vehemently disagree that Iran has any sort of upper hand. I think that they are playing just the hands that they are dealt, and trying to apply pressure in the only way that they know how, at this point with their restricted options, which is why they want to try to threaten other straits in the Red Sea. And that's a direct threat to Saudi Arabia. And if they do that, well, they're in for a world of hurt, not just from the United States, but the rest of the Gulf states will participate in letting them know where they stand, let's say. And I think that's pretty clear. So I don't see a very viable path. I know that there's a lot of propaganda out there that's like, oh my God, they're winning. This is not. If this is what winning looks like, then maybe people maybe people have never understood what actual winning is, because that's not what winning looks like. Winning isn't saber rattling and threatening straits and doing all of these things that realistically they don't have the power to control, versus a military force like the United States, especially when you combine that with the Gulf states that are very well prepared right now to strike them back if they decide that they are going to take that path. And if the Strait of Hormuz was so vitally important right now, they wouldn't be threatening the Red Sea. So that is my point regarding that.
Going up. There you are. You there, Landy?
Yeah.
I lost power.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's back now.
All right.
So wait, here's my quick question.
Sure.
Okay, quick answer. And then I have a bigger question.
Sure.
If you're right that the strait's unimportant, and I'm not saying you're wrong, all of this, what confuses me is nothing what you're saying, nothing you say does not make sense to me.
Mhm.
I am not convinced, and I will not be like blinded by the light, that Donald Trump, I don't know about what the people around him, that Donald Trump is thinking everything you're saying. If the strait doesn't matter, then there's no reason to ask Iran to open the strait, and in exchange, we'll remove the blockade. Like, don't remove the blockade. Leave the blockade in place until they give us the uranium. Like, to me, it's real simple. You give us the uranium, we lift the blockade. Well, the strait's going to remain closed, so the strait remains closed. That's what I don't get. Like, why lift the blockade? Why let this regime breathe when they've not done anything for us? And what really concerns me, Landy, is today Donald Trump said, he was on a thing for Lindsey Graham's, primary campaign. And he said, they want to make a very good deal. They're willing to give us everything. They're willing to give us no nuclear weapons. We're going to have the biggest win. It'll be a total victory. Landy, Iran promising not to make nuclear weapons is what they did in 2015.
Wait, Rob. First off, if you think for 1 second that doesn't involve us going in, then I think you don't understand what the terms are. It's been very clear out of the administration, and Trump has said that the strait doesn't matter. He said it at the very beginning. It doesn't matter to us.
Okay.
And I just pointed out that Iran would not be threatening the Red Sea straits, multiple, by the way, for the audience out there, if they felt like they had any power in this game right now.
Let me frame it differently for you. I'm determined to get you to concede something here, but not because I have to win, because it just doesn't add up. So, okay, I understand we're going to say they have to give us the uranium. That is a long process, to which they can stall and delay for months and months and months. They might be able to stall long enough for Trump not to still be president.
No.
Meanwhile, I don't know. I'm probably exaggerating.
I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. It's not. Trump is not that guy. He's not. He literally woke up in the middle of the night and said, yeah, we're doing it. All right, let's pull the trigger on multiple issues like this. And look, they have a priority table. Here's what I wanted to tell you, Rob. Because you brought up something very important, is Trump's messaging about this as you open up the strait, because he's giving them the illusion of power when they have none. So he's appealing to their internal propaganda, loosening the grip on things there. You have to massage the situation in negotiations. They have no cards in this game left, and they are losing. They're losing Russia and China in the process, and this is very, very clear. It's been very clear. So realistically, that's messaging for the markets too. You got to remember that's messaging for the markets as well.
I know. But I also think, look, I get it, but I just, you know what? And there's no proof until it's all over. I sadly am going to be having this conversation with you in a year when Iran is back to, like, we're having to worry that they're somehow not done what they said with the uranium, and they've got plenty of ballistic missiles, and they decided to keep launching them at Israel, and they're going to keep launching them in the Middle East. They do have a card left. They have the card left of the spoiler, which is they will go down in flames, but on the way, they have enough ballistic missiles to wreak havoc in the Gulf. And they will. They'll wreak havoc. And that
they've already tried multiple times.
They've tried a little. But imagine if they feel like they should just fire the whole arsenal.
They have been trying to fire the whole arsenal. That's the whole point. Look, there is no way in which they are going to win a military conflict with the United States.
They're not going to win a military conflict with us. Never. Ever. They know that. They can't win.
Ever.
Landy, my point is they don't have to win. They simply have to survive.
They won't win. They won't survive. Here's how you know they won't survive. Because they will not survive. Maybe the individuals within the IRGC will survive, but they will not survive in the manner in which they are right now. They will get a version in which they get to placate to the we are big, strong, bad guys, when realistically they've had their balls cut off. And the problem is that people don't recognize what that means, because they've been in power for a very long time, and they've been saber rattling and actually backing that up with injuring people and attacks and all that kind of stuff for many years before this conflict, right? But the fact of the matter is they knew that this was make or break once they started getting flattened internally. that they can only rely on propaganda and the limited set of options they have for economic stress within the global economy. But the problem is, Rob,
That's
the
a big.
global economy has already moved on.
Well,
They have. Look, I'm
somewhat.
telling you, the evidence is right there. They're not going to
Well,
threaten
no,
the
no,
Red
I
Sea if
agree.
the global economy
No,
didn't move
Andy,
on.
I agree. They've moved on, but they haven't moved on if Iran successfully starts hitting desalination plants and oil production
Do you think we're
facilities.
just going to go away and let them do that, though, Rob?
They've already taken a couple little baby pokes at it.
Yeah, but do you think we're going to just let them?
Here's what I think, Landy, and here's where you and I have our probably only disagreement. I do think Donald Trump cares about politics. I think he cares about whether he can get his agenda through, whether he loses control of all of Congress. I think he cares about how he looks, his political legacy. I think Donald Trump's made a very clear decision that he does not want to go back into a kinetic war with Iran. He keeps threatening it. He keeps saying, we'll bomb you to hell. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. They keep violating the ceasefire. Now they should shot 12 ballistic missiles at Israel. At what point do you go, okay, I guess you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it the easy way. Let's do it the hard way. He keeps saying, hey, Netanyahu, back down. You're making it hard for me to negotiate. It's like, why are you trying to negotiate?
Here's why, though.
Andy, why are they trying to negotiate? They keep violating the ceasefire, bomb them. He doesn't want to bomb them. He doesn't want to go back into a military conflict. He's trying not to, and they know that, and they're gonna keep going until because they think now eventually he might, but they think he doesn't want to, and they know he doesn't want to.
But here's the problem, Rob. Here's the problem with that. If we didn't want to go back into a military conflict, we wouldn't have rearmed there. We wouldn't have been working with our Gulf partners to rearm and upgrade
You
systems.
still do it in the event you have to.
Yeah, but he can.
Won't. I didn't
he's
say
not going to leave.
Go back. I said he doesn't want to.
We're not leaving until the moment that we have control of the nuclear assets.
I agree, but I am saying I think he desperately wants to avoid all these threats that he's going to. My point is, they realize that he's bluffing. Now, they may not realize that at a certain point he won't bluff and he'll just bomb the fuck out of them.
You're only talking about their strikes. What about ours? We struck them first.
Come on, Landy.
Right after the ceasefire, we struck them.
Landy. They literally are violating every single thing of the ceasefire, left, right, and center. They've shot at ships. No, we're not. We're retaliating when they do it.
No, Rob, this is wrong. First off, that's propaganda bullshit, because we've been striking them the entire time during the ceasefire, just like they've been reaching out and touching a few people here and there. They've been wholly unsuccessful, by the way.
Yes, but that's not my point.
And we've been very successful in our strikes.
Not my point.
If the moment that we don't get what we want, we can resume flattening the ever-loving hell out of them.
Landy, then I'm going to throw you the last curve on this, because I don't see how you get around this one. There is absolutely no way, and I don't care. I don't care what anybody wants to say. You call me a Kamala Harris lover if it's what makes you happy. The fact that we are conceding to them that Israel has to stop in Lebanon, while they're meanwhile literally, Israel got shot at by the Houthis, by Hezbollah, and Iran, all in like a week. Like, Iran's got its proxies going full tilt. It's telling Hezbollah, shoot at Israel, so Israel will shoot back, so we can tell the U.S., put a chain on your dog, put a chain on your Jewish dog over there. Like, it's so obvious that they are literally provoking Israel. And Trump, instead of going, fuck you, Iran, they can bomb the fuck out of Lebanon until Hezbollah is gone. He's going, hey, Netanyahu, you need to stop. It's fucking bullshit, Landy.
Because Hezbollah and all of the radical Muslim groups and Israel have been utilizing the same goddamn funding sources. And all they're doing is firing at each other to throw a monkey wrench in anything that Trump is trying to get done. And all of this kind of shit has been running out of London for 47 damn years. So Trump doesn't give a shit about what Bibi wants. He doesn't give a shit about what the Houthis want. He doesn't give a shit about what the Europeans want either. This is genuinely an America only and America first policy. In fact, I would argue, Rob, that this is actually in conjunction with the other two superpowers in the world, and that would be China and Russia. Because you know what else London is trying to do? And they're getting their proxies here in the United States to try to do is to continue to kick up the dust between Ukraine and Russia. And that op is being fully run out of London through to Ukraine to help enable them utilizing NATO airspace to go further and try to kick that up. You know why they're starting this now, Rob? Because they know they're about to lose one of the biggest chips on the board, and that was their proxy that they built. That was the British Empire's proxy, and out of London, and that was your radical Islamic groups. And you know who knows this? The Gulf states know this and understand this very well. China, Russia, and the United States know this very well. So the real enemy in all of this, and you know, this goes back to when Trump took that big team to Davos. We basically told London, Davos, and all of the Davos attendees, all of these European nations to stick it, because we're going to do what we want to do now. So I think that there's a much bigger dynamic here than just United States, Israel, and Iran. And I know you know this stuff very, very well. I know what you want to see. It's the same thing I want to see. But I've maintained since the very beginning of this conflict that the goal was never going to be to go in and change that regime. It was going to be to neuter them, neuter London, start creating more power and control over different sea straits in order to put pressure on China and Russia and get them to do deals with us on the energy side of things. And like groundwork was laid in Alaska with the talks on energy and rare earth elements with Putin. And then those talks continued in China with Trump's most recent visit. That's my stance on that. And the only thing I'll concede is London has actually been the problem in this entire situation in Iran for the duration of this problem, including protecting their leaders. Thanks, London. Good job.
Well, listen, I'm going to offer one last thought and then we move on to a new topic. But I think you may be right that regime change was never the point. I think it is a dangerous miscalculation to assume that simply degrading this regime and giving it time, it is like a parasite. It will grow back. And it will grow back worse and do worse. And it may be 10 years, maybe 15 years. But if this regime is not eradicated, they will find a way to a nuclear weapon and they will continue to sow havoc around the world. So if the goal was to end its reach, and Iran's reach as a major state sponsor of terror, and to absolutely neuter them so that they could chop their balls off so that they can never make a nuclear bomb baby, we're not going to accomplish it by leaving them in place and
let
making
me give you one retort to that.
What?
One retort before we move on, because here's my view of this, is the source of the problem wasn't the IRGC itself. Right. The IRGC, the whole situation with how the IRGC even came into power and how the revolution occurred, that entire operation was run by who? Not the United States, although the United States did play a role, but it was not run by the United States. That entire operation was run by London.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's true.
And there, so, well, it is true. I mean, if you go back in history and you look,
I understand the argument.
But here's and when you're looking at the symptom of a problem, going in and removing the IRGC and having a revolution there, then you're doing you're doing nation state building. And if you think for 1 second that London and the Europeans aren't going to stick their noses straight into that as quickly as possible, I think that would be an even bigger problem. Wow. And an even bigger operation than what we'd be looking at right here.
Well, all right. As far as I'm concerned, till I see otherwise, we are simply doing, other than what may have happened in terms of the energy shifts, which I'll give you credit, that's probably a valid thing that we've accomplished in terms of where the energy, where they're going to get energy from, people around the world, Europe, etc. We have simply stalled the process that Obama stalled. And the worst part for Trump is He's going to get
Obama didn't
hammered.
install it. He
He's
helped
going to
build it.
he's going to get hammered on both sides. He said he was going to go in and he was going to decimate Iran. First, he said he was going to eliminate their leadership and set the people free, and he was going to make sure they had no nuclear weapons. Now,
He didn't say he was going to set them free. He said, "This is your opportunity to rise up."
No, I can
That's
go
not
find
you
the
set
thing
them.
where he said we're gonna get rid of this regime. He even said after he did it is we've had regime change, which they haven't. They've had regime degradation. They didn't change the regime.
I mean, the
Bessent
regime is fundamentally different than it was before.
Secretary Bessent went on Morning Futures on Sunday and said we did not make regime change. He said we degraded the regime. It's still the same regime.
Yeah,
Still
I
the same
mean,
power.
it's the same ideological base.
It's the same regime. It's not a new regime. They didn't eliminate the mullahs and bring in a democracy or bring in a Shah or anything. Anyway, point is, Trump's going to get hammered at home. The Democrats, whether they're right or not, are going to jump all over this and go, you basically spent $100 billion on a war, which all you did was destroy their military. They're still in power. They still hold on to their nuke stuff, although they're giving some of it up eventually to us, supposedly. They still have ballistic missiles. They're still sponsoring terror. The Dems are going to go all over them and say, you did worse than Obama. And the Republicans, he's fractured.
And it's just not true. And that's where it falls apart.
It's what they're going to do. It's politics.
Doesn't matter.
The Republicans have been fractured. The hardliners, the Lindsey Grahams, the conservatives feel like he should have finished the job. So they're pissed. So he's literally, you might as well just go fucking finish the job, Landy. You can't get any worse. You can't get any more people pissed at you. Just go bomb the fuck out of them. I don't get why you just don't go, yeah, we should just bomb them and strangle them till they're dead and gone. Why not?
Because it doesn't meet the actual objectives of the administration. Which is way wider reaching than just Iran. This is taking this in a silo. It's way wider reaching. It doesn't meet the objectives.
But you can meet the objectives anyway. Just do that as well.
No, because then it's hundreds of billions of dollars of reconstruction and nation state building that we're doing, troops on the ground there to make sure that security is there. And we will eventually put them in the same damn situation that our troops were in GWAT. No, it's just not going to. This was never the goal, was to do that. It was never the goal to do that. Here's the way in which you choke them out is you choke them out over time. They don't get stronger through this process. They get weaker. Surviving is not strength.
In place, yes.
Surviving is not strength. All right. That is weakness. They are surviving. They're limping along. They're doing very, very poorly. They have no economic outs. And the legitimate criticism that you bring up is that, well, if it goes this way and we give them what they want, we start, lifting sanctions and this and that. Then we're basically allowing them to fund back up, which allows them to, instead of just survive, start to grow in strength again. They're not in they're in a downward path right now. And everything that you see and hear is the fog of war. There's nothing tangibly has changed outside of we are not actively running night after night bombing campaigns within their country. And that's it. That's the only thing that's changed. Nothing else has changed meaningfully.
Well, you might be right about a lot of this, but I'm telling you, I'm right about one thing, which is this outcome is not going to make the American people happy. And I do not believe Trump doesn't care what the American people think, because he wants to be remembered as a great president and he wants to win. And he's going to, if this ends the way I think it's going to end, they're going to lose both fucking houses.
Okay. I'm going to challenge you on that right now. Here's why. You saw the most recent polling reports that came out that showed that the House is actually projected to be a win by 3. All the Republicans have to do is pick up three seats and they win. Democrats have a much harder path post a Supreme Court ruling in even the House. Their margin is so thin. They don't have a margin for winning right now. The Republicans are the ones with the margin for winning the House right now. Right. So what you're looking at is very unlikely that they pick up the Senate. And now this week's polling coming out, very unlikely and a very tough path for them to even pick up the House. this, I believe, is going to continue to trend in that direction. I get what you're saying from the sentiment side of things, but it's not reflecting in the polls in the American people. That's my point. When looking at the data, just because your conversation on the street might be, yeah, I'm upset that Trump did this. You know, they're not going to sit there and go, well, I think I'm going to vote for the radical Democrat that wants to trans my kids, allow more illegals and into my community, allow more H-1Bs into my community, and then continue to provide for slush fund fraud programs in the social programs. Most are not doing that. Most aren't going, well, you know, I voted for Trump 3 times, but, you know, because of this thing, I'm going to go ahead and turn around and not vote for him right now. And that's that sentiment, which you look at in the crosstabs for his polling, has better numbers than any president in history amongst his base. And now we're starting to see that Republicans have a much stronger position than the media and anyone else, including the sentiment, has been saying online. They were, you know, the Democrats were projected to be a +5 in the House, right? And now now the margin has flipped. They're -5. They're -5 now in the House. I don't see a viable path for them. They gotta win 5 seats to pick up the House.
Yeah,
Republicans only got to win 3 of the toss-ups, and they all lean Republican.
yeah. Look, we're going to disagree on this. I mean, I think the Senate is a harder shot, although I'm increasingly worried that even Maine is going to flip. They only got to flip a couple. I mean, that's how they'd win the Senate. They flip a couple states, you know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to me that they could flip Maine with this guy, but I think they could. You know?
I mean, if they cheat, sure. They can win
No,
anything.
not if they cheat. I mean, he's way ahead of her in polling. Susan Collins is not popular. She's been there forever.
Yeah, how many times has she been projected to lose? Look, I don't even like
I know
Susan
she
Collins.
always beats the polls until she doesn't. I know. Look,
I know,
don't
every
think it's gonna
single
be
time.
easy. I don't think it's going to be easy, right? I don't think it's going to be easy. They got to get 3 seats in the House to win. I'm just saying, Landy, it's like sports, you know, handicapping. Everybody picks their team early on and says, look, they're going to do it, right? The only person to buck this midterm trend, was Bush after the Iraq War, right? I mean, no president successfully done it. The wins don't look favorable. I don't know what the crosstabs say. I'm just saying the economy's not where it needs to be. People are sensitive about prices. You know, the Democrats are jazzed up about it. This Iran thing is very unpopular with people. Trump's dismissing people's concerns. I don't think it's going to be impossible at all for them to pick up 3 seats in the House. I know that the not being able to gerrymander the states hasn't helped them, but I don't think it's that hard a shot to imagine them picking up 3 seats.
Yeah, well, but just last week, polling was reflecting the
Well, it depends.
negative
I've seen
sentiment.
polls that say the Democrats have the edge. I know I'm not saying they're going to blow us out of the water kind of thing.
No, there's no blue wave. That never materializes. It never does. And now they Democrats have, you know, the more recent polling is showing that Democrats have a tougher road to hoe than Kamala did. Right? Like in terms of when you're looking at the actual seats. When you take a look at the actual seats, they've got a tougher job than they had even trying to get Kamala elected.
Yeah, I guess. Look, it all depends who you look at. You know, I have my sources that I trust, and none of them are perfect. I actually like the Cook Political Report a lot. You may say, "Oh, the Cook Political Report, whatever." I tend to think they're pretty good and pretty accurate. I feel overall they're pretty fair. You know, they're saying if you look at what the Cook Political Report said in the last couple of weeks, you know, they're like, it's not a stretch at all for Dems to flip the House. That a lot of Republicans
Nobody's saying that it's a stretch, but the point being is that
a lot of close races, and they tend to break toward the party out of power often.
Yeah, but that's because they're using historical precedents and applying it to they're applying it to the current races as a bias. Now, when you're looking at the narrow majority that the when you're looking at the narrow majority that the Republicans have in the House, that you would have to have, in this case, it's the five. Oh no, because it was D plus 7 now. It's D plus 7 now is the most recent projections. Now everybody's saying, oh, well, this is an outlier. Well, that's because Nate Solver, 51 plus, Ballotopedia, all these other ones haven't done the most recent
Right.
polls. They're still conducting them. But the biggest problem is that the Democrats don't have a cohesive message. They don't. Hating
agree.
Trump is not a message, right? Like
I agree.
you can't, and this is why they didn't win the presidency. You can't just hate Trump. You have to have a plan and a message for what you're going to do for the people, well, how you're going to push that policy in Washington, D.C. And sure, you can incorporate the Trump bad message if you want, but on the other side of that, all they have is the Trump bad message. And that's it. Even here in the local races, Trump bad, vote for me. Like, no one cares here.
Look, Andy, I agree with you. But, and again, we can talk more about this going forward. I think midterms are very different than a general election. And I think the way congressional seats and votes go is different in a midterm because you don't have a national ticket. So while you're right, not having a message, I look at the individual states. Look, there's five states, right? It's 5 states, right? Texas, Ohio, Alaska, Maine, and North Carolina. Those are the Senate seats that really could be up for grabs, right? Right? Texas is going to say Republican. Maine, I'm not so sure about. But look you got North Carolina and you've got Ohio. Sherrod Brown is very popular in Ohio. The former governor of North Carolina is very popular. They could win the Senate race. They're popular politicians in their own state. They'll have their own state message. They don't need to have a national party message. They could flip those. I'm not saying they will, but I think Sherrod Brown's got a real shot in Ohio.
Well, I mean, the problem is the message out of him has been what? It's the same thing. It's all Trump bad. When are you going to start focusing on the people in the state?
Well, and if he doesn't before the election, then he won't win. But I'm saying he's a popular politician.
Sure.
North Carolina, you have a governor. Governors, you're a popular governor. The state overall liked you. You got a good shot. I'm just saying these are not. I don't think they're going to necessarily flip the Senate. I'm more worried about the House. But I'm saying it's not crazy that they could flip the Senate. I think it's still a long shot. I'd agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's a long shot. If anything, I think it's fair to project, if you're going to be an early projector, to say that Dems take the House, Senate gets retained, even if it's a 50-50 split, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the big fear, though, out of the Republicans, this entire fear-mongering campaign from Republican politicians is that, well, if you don't retain the House and Senate, they're going to impeach Trump. And everyone in Washington knows that there's no viable path to impeachment, even if Dems held both the House and Senate.
You're right.
What I don't like about this, but Rob, what I don't like about this entire conversation is I think Republicans are morons. Okay. Republican politicians are morons. And then they feel that their constituents are morons, much like the Democrats treat their constituents like morons. But in this case, they're just playing the Trump game. Trump's going to Trump. And it's like, yo, the people are pissed at the Republicans. Republicans are pissed at the Republicans in the Senate and in the House.
Yes.
Why? Because they haven't been doing what? Implementing the agenda that Trump has been trying to implement. That's actually a bigger problem than Iran. That's a bigger problem than anything else when it comes to these particular politicians. You can have your misgivings about Iran, but that's not going to take somebody who's MAGA and who's actually MAGA, part of that base, and flip them against Trump. It's going to be, you didn't implement you're not passing the SAFE.
I agree with you. And I don't know. You're
not passing crypto legislation.
Do you see yourself as a MAGA person? I hate the label. Just
I would say no. Because I have some problems with MAGA. I am a Trump guy.
Okay.
I'm a Trump
So
guy.
I would agree with you. I think you make a great point. The biggest problem Republicans may have is their own disillusioned base of people who are pissed at them, who may not vote or may just be tired. They're not
Yeah.
going to go vote for the Dems.
Turnout being down. Yeah.
Turnout being down, and it's a midterm election. Um, that worries me. It's a great point. I hate both parties, Landy.
Yeah.
I've argued forever. Both parties just retain power for themselves. They do very little for the American public. Congress approval rating is so low for a reason. They almost never accomplish shit for the country, no matter who's in power. And then both sides just blame each other, and they flip roles, and they blame each other for the same things when they switch roles. It's like a joke. I'm sort of like, literally, I'd like to get, I wrote a book called The National Enema. I want to just vote everybody out of office and start fresh. We couldn't do worse. So I'm not a fan of either party. I am worried if the progressive side of the Democratic Party, the amount of damage they can do, can't be fixed, but they can do a lot of damage. I mean, if Kamala Harris had been president, I think we'd be in a fair amount of trouble. I don't think the country would fall apart any more than people were saying if Trump's president, the republic fails. But she'd done some real damage, right? I mean, she would have broken some shit that would take a while to fix.
Yeah. Well, I don't view Trump as a Republican or a Democrat, right? Because look, if anything, Trump is an old school Democrat, right? He is an old school Democrat, like through and through. In terms of policy, everything he does,
He's like a Clinton. He's like a Clinton.
Yeah, but of course, because the media narrative has broad brush painted him as a far right extremist, analogous to Hitler, right? Authoritarian. When in reality, his actual policy and governance, whether it be executive orders or initiatives that he's pushed, they fall way more on the Democrat side of things. When you look at how he wants to take, he had that interview where he rightfully said that he got a bunch of the Bernie vote. Because part of the economic policy that he's implemented is public investment into private companies. And that's a Democrat position. That's an old school Democrat position. Republicans hated that. And they still hate it, by the way. That's why these rhinos still don't like it.
No, I agree. And Trump sort of has a piece in that's kind of a populist, a conservative populist, but a populist. And I feel like populism, even on the left and the right, has a lot in common. Populism. Not progressivism. Populism.
Yes, I agree.
And that's why
I would say that I am a populist.
I got some of the Bernie vote.
I am a populist then. I mean, if you were going to put me in a camp, I am a Democrat populist of yore, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not, even though I am a Christian, I'm not a Christian that wants, and this is on the social issues. I'm far more liberal than conservative,
right?
But I have a line that you do not cross line when it comes to certain social things. Right. But when it comes to the economic view, I was I in the early days, I worked back in the late 90s. I worked with Chuck Schumer's campaign. Right. Well, and this is back when he made sense. Remember when Chuck Schumer he made sense and he said all the things that Trump now says? Remember those days?
Chuck Schumer, I was never a Chuck Schumer fan. Remember, I was in DC in the early 90s and the late 80s and launched my big Gen X political campaign, right? Lead or Leave. So I knew a lot of these people, right? I mean, I knew Clinton. I knew a lot of Republican and Democratic senators, knew them, personally. They were on my advisory board. They were, Bill Bradley wrote the foreword to my book. He's a Democratic senator from New Jersey. I had Republican and Democratic friends in pretty powerful positions right up to the president. I never liked Chuck Schumer. I've always thought he was an insider, but I understand what you mean. And in my early days in DC, I fundraised for some Democratic politicians running for Congress. And I fundraised for a lot of progressive, now, left-leaning groups like Greenpeace and stuff like that, so and I didn't consider myself a Democrat per se, but I know what you mean. Roger Ailes said I was a liberal libertarian. That's a pretty good description of me.
Well, I was young. I was in New York.
I was young too.
And I was that you naturally go to the Democrats, right?
Yeah.
And you had, at the time, RFK Jr. was doing a lot of work in New York at the time as well, right? So through various vectors, and I managed to get into a position where I was helping on the campaign for Chuck
Mm-hmm.
Schumer.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what turned me away from the Democrats. Here's why. Because everything that he ran on, he immediately disavowed.
Yep.
He immediately disavowed. And then over the years, you've seen, and everybody always brings up the clips of like Hillary and Obama and Chuck and everybody else, and saying the same things that Trump says now.
Yep.
And
And
the
Clinton,
reality is
and
that
Clinton saying the
Clinton,
same thing.
yeah, Clinton. I mean, Hillary at one point, you would think that she would have been the next coming of Adolf with
Mhm.
the way that she talks, right? But reality is they actually did have a focus at one point on the American people as a check on the Republicans, which were running away with corporations.
Yes.
But
Yes.
now it's the opposite.
We agree. And I agree with you on this. And I can just tell you my greatest left-leaning thing was I helped campaign for Jesse Jackson when he ran for president in the 80s.
Hey, so did Donald Trump.
I
So
know.
did Donald Trump.
I know.
Yeah.
Listen, I like Donald Trump. I wanted him to win the minute he walked down the escalator. I just have problems with certain things he does, and I hate this worship of him. I hate how people are like he can do no wrong, and like he can do a lot of wrong. He's a human being. He's got his ego. He's a little pretty narcissistic. He's he can be like he's not right about everything. Like you can he's not infallible.
He's
He's
a
not
bull
God.
in a china shop. He is a bull in a china
Love
shop.
he's a bull in the China shop. I love that in his first term. I always liked it. That's what I called him too. The China shop needed wrecking.
And you know this as well as I do. In his first term, both the Republicans and the Democrats did everything they could to stifle everything he did, and they're
As did
doing it again in this.
community.
But the difference is this time, and you see the difference is that he's not afraid to use the stroke of a pen. The problem that I have is not with Trump. There's certain things that he's done that I disagree with vehemently. All right, vehemently. The Iran situation, I do not. The Venezuela situation, I do not. And the upcoming Cuba situation, I will not disagree with him on this. I think these all
Right.
need to be done.
Well,
I don't disagree with him on implementing the old school American system, that he's talked about, Besant has talked about, all of the economic advisors talked about. I'm actually on board with that. Where I have issues with him, they're smaller issues, and it's about decisions that he's made in terms of putting certain people in certain positions. And then what I don't like is some of the people that he has chosen to coming into 24 and in through this election cycle chosen to back as candidates.
I agree with you. I got more things. I'm going to run out of time in a couple minutes because I got to wrap it.
Yes,
So
sir.
I want to keep this conversation going. You're welcome to come back on next Monday if you want.
Sure. Oh, I can come
You
through.
like talking. Quick before we go, 30 seconds. How low does Bitcoin go before it short answer, don't pull out the candles. How low does it go before it bounces up a little bit and then probably goes back down?
I mean, we're in the process of seeing a smaller bounce now. I would say that we're above 65, it has a chance to bounce further up. But the longer it stays below 65, the more likely it is that it's going to test the downside more.
And
Maybe
what would that
the current lows and potentially lower.
60?
Yeah, 65. Below 65, I think it's got a higher percentage chance of not only testing the most recent lows, but lower.
That's what I'm saying. How low would those lows be?
If it breaks down, I'm looking mid to low 50s.
Mid to low 50s?
Yeah, so 50 primary area on the daily would be 52.5 to around 56. Below there, looking 48 to 50, at least initially.
Wow.
But if it gets above 65, it's got a chance to continue to bounce a little bit more, a little bit higher, 70s, low 70s, easy. If it gets above 60, it's gotta start closing above 65 though, and staying there.
And then after October, do we see it start climbing again?
I think that by Q4 of this year, end of Q3, Q4 timeframe, we find the macro low, and that's going to be a really good time, I think, to start evaluating. I mean, here and under, Rob, I even spot bought at 60 because the last time I couldn't get my fill in at 60, so I spot bought at 65. But 60 and under, I got a spot fill on 60 because it went under 60. Finally hit my spot orders there. And then I have spot orders layered down, just bigger and bigger lot sizes down through the 50s, 40s, 30s, just in case, right? Even if it doesn't get there, I'll just reallocate that capital if it starts to turn around.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. When do we hit 100 again?
You
December?
know, 100. Look, anything can happen with Bitcoin when it starts to get really highly volatile. You know, Q1, Q2 of next year wouldn't be a bad candidate to see that. Maybe like an end of year run into early next year, provided we have set the macro low fairly close. But if we go really deep, if we go anywhere below $48,000, it's going to take a while. We're probably looking mid next year before it really starts getting those high prices, see a low carved out, take some time, and then it starts marching back to the upside, maybe, working its way back towards 100K and above sometime this time next year, or a little bit earlier, Q1 to Q2 of next year.
It's all a waiting game.
Yeah, you have so much premium in traditional markets right now. Portfolio managers that allocated people into like spot ETFs. Anybody looking at their portfolio right now, if you only have exposure through like those spot ETFs, you don't even care that it's down. In fact, they're looking at the premium because your portfolio is up so much. You're just looking at it going, oh, hey, this is probably a good time to maybe reallocate some more here and lower for Bitcoin.
Yep. Well, I'm thinking about that too. Yeah.
I mean, here and lower, just be prepared that if it draws down hard, you got some capital to throw in.
Well, that's why I'm going to wait. That's why I was asking. Personally, I'm going to wait till it gets. I like to wait till I don't want to buy just to watch it go down. Like I kind of want to wait till I think it's not going to go down too much more when I buy. Like I'm kind of where I like to buy nearer the bottom than oh. Just bought now. I just lost another. Just went down $10,000.
Well, I like to ladder in. So my lot sizes just get bigger and bigger the lower it goes. If it doesn't get there and starts to turn around, like let's say if this is hypothetical. Let's say we went up and we broke the most recent highs that we had were at 82.5, $83,000 or so. If it got above there and then started to retrace, no matter where it went, it could go to 890, 95. When it heads back down for that next big low, I'd give it some time to carve out that next big low, and I'd just allocate capital there. Even if it's at a higher cost basis, I'd rather ride that trend change than not. But for right now, I'm just laddering in here and lower. I have no problem here. Even if it was to dive, I don't care. Some people have like $30,000 and shit, give me $30,000. I'll take it.
Right.
Give me more Bitcoin. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's good. Did you sell though near the top to take some profit and then just put it back in?
What I do is I hedge my portfolio in perpetuals and futures, and then this past cycle I was hedging with puts. So I don't sell the underlying asset. I just hedge with the short side.
Yep. I've done both, but yeah, I did that too. I did some shorts this last round.
Very smart. Yeah.
Again, I just cashed in on a little because once it went under 66 or whatever, boom.
Yeah. I took, so I had I took a short position on Bitcoin on the recent run up. I was taking shorts above 80. And then I took some puts above 80 on the spot ETFs. Across most of them where there was some really good delta there. So, and look, I think, and I closed down some of them, right? You got time decay. So, I closed down some of them. I still have my perpetual shorts open because it's long pay short. So I'm making money just sitting in the short position. So I don't mind.
That's smart.
It took profit though. I did take profit.
Advice for anybody who's watching.
Yeah, not financial advice.
It's just a conversation of what
I'm literally it on the internet. Don't take my advice.
I may take financial advice from you though, Randy. People can take it. You're just not giving it. It's not being offered as advice. People can do what they want with it. Okay, listen. It's 9. It's great having you on. Come on next Monday. We'll talk politics and a little Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'll come on. You can pencil me in for the summer, especially my
Okay.
sons. My son and the other kids are off.
I'll pencil you in, but I'm penning you in for next Monday.
Sounds good. I
Bye, man.
appreciate you having me, Rob.
Good talking to you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. I will see you on Wednesday.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker?
It's good to see you. Listen,
If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all